post maybe some thoughts or some questions. I know that I managed to post them right beforehand. And I guess, I just wanted to share my 2 little points or 3 little points with you, and maybe just get some of your insights and, kind of share what I thought about it. And then you guys, it's opened up to you guys, I guess, to kind of go through the rest of it here, and to either talk about maybe some of the things I pointed out, or talk about some of the things that you noticed when you were doing the virtual child and some of the choices that you had. So with mine, there were a lot of questions that kind of asked me about talking / dancing with my child, or singing to my child, or versus like playing with my child, and all that kind of thing. So I ended up siding a lot more with talking and incorporating, and doing some play when I can, but when I could. But I definitely talked a lot more, because I felt like it was and especially when it said, like, oh, do you, like, it wasn't saying babbling, but do you use full sentences or not? I'm not sure if you guys had the same question, but I chose to use full sentences and try and treat the child as an adult as much as possible, because I thought that was pretty important, early on, that they were hearing, full words and kind of like more complex sounds than they were used to, because I felt like that was important. The other thing that there was only one question about it. It was talking about how me and my partner worked and our work schedules and all of that. And it was talking about, should the child be babysat, like extensively, minorly? Should there be a partner always at home? And, I think there was one question, or one option, that allowed your child to be babysat by like a nanny, but also by relatives part-time. And that's the one I ended up going with. I kind of tried to be realistic as possible. My wife is going to go into med school, and then I'm going to try and do a business administration degree in the medical field. So I know that we're going to both be busy, but we'll also be trying to make time to, as much time as we can for our child. So I was kind of figuring that we'd do a part-time, we'd move close to family, and they'd be taking care of our child while we were working, but we would also try and make as much time as possible to try and get back to our child, because we know how important it is that we're kind of in their lives, because we're the primary people that help raise and help the child grow psychologically. So if you guys have any thoughts or opinions about that, or differences where you chose differently, I'd love to hear about them.
I remember that question too. Oh, sorry, you can go first.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, about the decision on whether to, play with your child more, or to encourage like talking or singing. I kind of had the same thoughts as David, where I kind of chose to do more talking, but I mean, of course, play with your baby as well. Encourage those motor skills, like reaching or whatever. But I just that to the baby, which is more of the language, and I child to hear different expressions, and I think it's helpful for when they start noises that you kind of it. So I felt that talking was kind of important, and singing too. I feel like babies and little children can learn a lot through music, and I've seen that. I have a 1-year-old niece, and I've seen that a lot. She loves music, and when she's singing, she can't exactly pronounce all the words, but she can kind of talk, like she can say sentences but when she's just talking, she can only say like 2 words. So I thought that was interesting. So those are some of my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you guys. I think that I felt like no matter what I picked, it kind of influenced my child down the line, which was interesting. Like there was one question that discussed playing with your child, and like anytime they wanted to interact with you, give them that, or deferring to letting them play with toys and be more independent. And I also picked to play with my child and interact with them as much as possible, because I thought that would be good for their social development and help them with exposure to new ideas. But then that resulted in them being like overly attached to me later on down the line, which I thought was really interesting. And I wondered like how applicable that was to actually raising real children, because I don't have any kids. And so I just thought that it was interesting how the simulation made that happen.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. Going back to the talking or singing and dancing with your child, I chose the singing or dancing with the child because I feel like I would do that a lot more than, I don't know. I'd still talk to them. I feel like that was maybe one of my problems with the simulation, but that if they were in that mood to dance or sing, then I'd sing with them or dance with them. But it definitely did have an effect on them, and overall they ended up being a little bit more shy to people around them. Probably not from that one, but from the other ones. So.
So I didn't actually finish my child because as I was doing it, I realized my partner was a girl and I didn't like that. So he restarted it this morning. So really, but it was kind of interesting. I did not like that at all. That got me like putting sleep and how that affects them. Like it asks the question, are you gonna rock your child till they fall asleep, or just let them fuss and cry, or just let them cry? And personally, I just like to rock my baby to sleep and then put her down. But I don't know if that's what that's the main input.
Yeah, I really liked all those thoughts. I can see kind of how like some of us agree and some of us disagree, but like I don't, it's not like there's a wrong way of doing it, because I think children are raised in like a variety or like a different settings all the time, and then not only is it just you raising the child, it's also your partner who might treat your child completely differently. She might be the one, because maybe I choose to talk to my child, but maybe my partner chooses to do a lot more playing or a lot more singing, you know what I mean? So like there's if you have your mom over or your parents to visit, your grandchild, which is probably going to happen, they also have interactions with them too. So it's not like, just because you concentrate on singing, or if I concentrate on talking or all those kind of things, that the other things aren't going to happen. But yeah, I really liked all those thoughts and what you guys are doing. And that's so strange that was it you, Hillary, that was saying that you got a partner that was a girl? I didn't realize that would happen. I thought it was really weird when one of the questions was it was asking about your marriage, I believe, and was saying, if it doesn't work out, you'll get a divorce, or you're up to keeping the relationship going, but your partner is kind of up in the air, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I know which one I'm picking. It's like the solid one and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was a weird question to ask, but I think it's good, you know what I mean, because I think a child can tell. I feel like when you're more committed in a relationship, a child can kind of pick up on that, because if you're willing to bicker and kind of argue over the smallest of things with your partner, and those things can cause major rifts in your relationship, I think that child will pick up on that. But when you're more working together and really kind of thinking of it as a permanent thing, you kind of, not that you allow your partner to slide or to just get by on this or whatever else, but you're willing to accept those things, forgive and talk it out, and have an atmosphere that the child can kind of be nurtured and grow up in. I know that maybe necessarily wasn't a point on the thing, but I thought, that the question related to, how firm you're going to be with your partner was very interesting. I don't know if you guys got the same question though.
Yeah, I think we all, I don't know. I feel like I had a lot of the same questions as you. I don't know if all the things are the same for everyone, but yeah, I thought that was a really interesting question too. I was like, oh, okay. but as I thought about it, I realized that I think it's really important for parents or couples to decide beforehand if they both want to keep the relationship going. Like they need to figure out where they're going to stand, so that when a conflict happens, they already know what they're going to, how they're going to react. And I definitely think that it has an effect on the kids because, as David was saying, if you're, arguing or getting frustrated with each other all the time, the baby is going to pick up on that type of language and on that type of behavior. And if it continues as they get older, they're going to copy that. And so, obviously, I picked the same thing that me and my partner are going to try, well, that we are going to stay together forever. And so.
I didn't get a question for that. I more got a statement that said you and your wife were having some arguments, but you decided to work it out and that you would stay up and help with the child as well. So I thought that was interesting. But going off of this topic, I think it's also important that if you do have conflicts in front of your child, that you show in front of your child that you can resolve those conflicts and show them how to resolve those conflicts, I guess. Just don't do it behind closed doors all the time. I don't know.
They probably assumed, Tyler, that you and your spouse were pretty much set. I mean, you might have your arguments, but you guys were forever. It was a forever deal. You guys were set, so good for you, man. They picked up on that.
Woo!
Let's see here. Another thought that I had posted. Let me just go over to the discussion really fast. I was doing this because I was just kind of briefly talking about with my wife because I wanted to try and be as close as I could to, kind of what we were thinking about doing, and I kind of found a couple of differences here and there when I asked her. And I know this might be a personal or weird question to ask. I hope it doesn't come off that way. But one of the questions asked, about breastfeeding, and I feel like I'm the awkward guy that's going to bring this up here. But when I was bringing it up with my wife, she kind of really didn't have an opinion on it or whatever else. She said, I guess I could, but I mean, what do you want? I'm like, hey, I don't know. It's, I just kind of want to do whatever is, psychologically best for, for the child. And although I'm not really like aware of what the research is on all of it or what all of the indicators are, I don't know, like if you guys want to talk about this, you can. If not, you can change the topic briefly, and I won't even mark you off on it. I won't mark you off. I won't say anything about it. Whatever. Go ahead.
Pro breastfeeding. I think breastfeeding has so many benefits, and the fact that it's cheaper and easier. I think people get more sleep when they can breastfeed, and the baby feels more connection with the mother. And then the antibiotics and the stuff that come through the breast milk help protect the baby from, like, my baby just got a cold and she got over it pretty quickly, but I'm breastfeeding her, so I don't know if I'm pretty sure that's helped it because I got the cold too. And she didn't get very sick. She was like 2 days, but.
My mom actually adopted 4 children in the last let's see here, in the last 5 years or so. She started fostering, and then she adopted these 4 kids. So altogether, my family count comes out to about 11, and there's a big difference in the older children. I'm one of the middle children, and then these last ones here that have come along that my mom has adopted. And we were all, I know kind of that, and the reason why I'm relating to this, I know they drink formula more than anything else. And I've been trying to think about maybe some of the differences that some of the children have. I mean, because I can't even tell whether, formula is making a difference, or the fact that they were brought up in, because I know that one of the children, for example, shaken baby syndrome, detached retinas, just really horrible things, bruises everywhere. He had a shunt put in because of the abuse that that he had to go through. But, how do you, I didn't even know how to separate, some of the things that he was going through versus, something as simple as a change and I'm getting formula versus, the natural alternative. So I think it's kind of almost a little bit difficult to even like isolate something like that to just, how a child is developing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say something about that. I don't have any kids yet, and so I don't have any personal experience with breastfeeding. I believe that's probably the best way about feeding your child because of the connection and the nutrients and things like that. But I also believe that formula feeding can be as beneficial as well. Just because for me, when I was born, my mom she suddenly just stopped producing milk. And so I had to be formula fed ever since I was, like 2 weeks old. And so I turned out just as healthy and, I don't know, smart and connected with my mother as I think any other baby. And so I think if you have to formula feed, you can still have that connection with your child and they can still be healthy as well.
Absolutely. I think I really agree with you. There's so many factors that influence development other than breastfeeding. And while it's definitely a good idea to do what's best for your child, whether that's breastfeeding or formula feeding, like in the moment, like there's so many things that you can do to strengthen that bond between you and your child and make sure that they're getting the best care that they need.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of you guys. I've got 3 kids so far. I'm pregnant with my 4th. And I've breastfed all of them up to this point. And I did choose on the simulation to do so as well. I don't know. Like, there's the antibodies and the nutrients that are ideal, but there's definitely other ways when you're formula feeding to get that bonding. Like, they still suggest that you do certain things for the dad, like give the dad an opportunity to hold the baby skin to skin and do things like that so that they're able to get the same level of bonding as the mother. So there's definitely ways around it. But breastfeeding, when possible, is ideal, according to most pediatricians.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, guys. Thank you for all your thoughts. If anyone has anything else to say on it, I wanted to read Natalie's comment. It looks like her mic's not working, but I wanted to read her bit so at least she gets her opinion out there. So she's saying, I'll read the whole thing. I'm here. This is Natalie. I can't get my mic to work, but I also wanted to throw in there also that showing kids how to work through issues is great. Our kids are going to have fights with friends and siblings, I'm assuming. So showing healthy ways to handle conflict is important. I will throw my 2 cents on the breastfeeding. I have 2 kids. My first, I had to pump exclusively because my first had a bad latch. I didn't want to give up though, and she's been a super healthy kiddo. I'm currently weaning my second, and he actually was an awesome nurser. The bond breastfeeding creates between a mother and child is something I feel like when fed with bottles, either breast milk or formula, we miss out on. Okay. Thanks, Natalie. I appreciate your thoughts. Sorry about your mic too. We can get that worked out later on, but thank you for your thoughts. I appreciate that. If no one else has any more comments on that, does anyone else have any other topics they want to bring up? If not, I have definitely another topic to discuss here. Okay. So the last thing, and I got a lot of this, and I don't know if you guys did. I got a restlessness and a fussy child. Like not a whole lot, but it probably came up about 2 or 3 times, and it would keep on saying that, your child is perfectly normal, but there are awkward, there are these times where she fusses. And then I was like, oh, okay, every child fusses. And then, I'd kind of go through a couple of more scenarios, watch the videos, and then it would come up with the same thing. Like, she gets really fussy when she's going to get put down. What do you do? And then, I'd go through that. I'm like, okay, well, she's growing up. I mean, fussiness still happens. And then the 3rd time it came up, and I was like, okay, well, maybe the fussiness is, something. And, so how do you guys feel like children with fuss should be dealt with? Some of the options that I got posed were, just leave them and let them cry for a little bit and work it out. Or, as often as you can go, but if you're busy, then you let them cry for a little bit. Or, go in there, rock the child, help him out, help him or her out and do as much as you can. So like, I know that there were way more options than that. And I don't know if you guys had, maybe the fussiness problem, but what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I thought this one was probably the most interesting questions that I was asked in this, because like with my own kids, I handle it a little differently than it gave us any option to. So in the simulation, I chose to normally just stick with like trying to keep the structure and the routine the same. But they were giving options of like going for car rides to calm the baby down, or putting them in a stroller, or just talking to them and soothing them. But normally what I would do is make sure like all their needs are met. They're generally not fussy just for no reason unless they have like colic or things like that going on. But so I would make sure their needs are met and then either try and soothe them, and if they don't want to be soothed, we'd either like, try something out of the norm like going for a car ride, or try and just let them calm themselves down after a minute. I'm not one to leave them in their crib to really cry if I don't have to. But I was really shocked to see that as an option. And I had the same thing where it kept popping up, and I wasn't sure if I was doing something wrong in the simulation, or something like if there was actually a reason that people getting fussy, or if it's just come up with sense.
My simulation gave me more of a fussy child as well. And I wasn't exactly sure which option to choose because I'm not a mother yet. And so I don't know what is best. Is it best to, when they cry, to always try to comfort them? Or is it good and healthy for them to cry and to learn to comfort themselves? So I was wondering what you guys think about that.
I think it's good to always let them know that you are always there for them, or like you're still there, but kind of keep a little distance so that they can learn to comfort themselves. But you don't want them to be like hysterical. You want to pick them up if they're like very angry. But if they're just kind of fussy, it's good to let them kind of comfort themselves. So it's like a mixture of both. And as a mother and like a father and any caregivers, you kind of learn your child, and you know, and you can kind of feel what to do in these situations. There's no set thing to do with anything. I've learned that pretty quickly.
No, I think I'm kind of side with Haley there, or I'm sorry, was it Hillary? I can't exactly remember here, but it's that you don't pick them up every single time they need to get picked up. You kind of, and I think it gets really personal for every single parent, with their children. When a child is actually in danger, when the cry is real. Although you may not know it right away, I think you get that sense of they really need me versus they're tired, or they just they want more attention than they actually need. And I think it comes down to you kind of keeping track and pacing how much you support the fussiness versus not, because there are times where because we're supposed to give our attention to our kids and we're supposed to spend time with them, we're supposed to play with them, it's good to do those things. So when they're being fussy and all they want is attention, sometimes that's not the worst thing, to go and pick up your child and play with them, because playing with your children is good. But when I think there also needs to be a boundary set that not every single time that you want something should a child get it. You know what I mean? There's other things that are important. So I didn't opt to necessarily leave the child in the crib to cry. I think I would maybe do that more so maybe when they were going to bed. I have my younger adopted sister. My parents leave her in a room, and sometimes she cries for about 5-10 minutes, maybe even 15, but she always goes to bed. My mom knows that's a habit with her, that sometimes she cries herself to sleep. It only happens once every 2 weeks, so it's not a big deal, and she knows what's going on. So I don't know. I choose to kind of maybe lean more toward the let them be independent and kind of thing, but definitely going in the in the parts where it sounds like they really need you. Definitely going in then, and then if not, only when you have the spare time, but, every now and then, give in their way, because they do want your attention, and, they are just, looking for, a playmate when it's 8 o'clock at night and they don't have someone else to go to. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
I think a good example, my sister just was sleep training her 1-year-old, and she started with leaning over the crib and like rubbing his back, and then she had a chair right next to the crib, and every night she just moved the chair like an inch or two further away from the bed and like talking to him as he was trying to fall asleep until she was kind of out of the room.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea, to kind of help the child into that, because they might be startled at first if you just suddenly change your behavior or leave them by themselves. But I also have to agree that overall, I think with a mixed variety of comforting and letting them cry it out for a little bit, unless they keep going, then you can go in and check on them. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't have any children yet, so I don't know.
No, thank you. I think, whether having children or not, we have been children. We know our parents have had kids. We see kids at church, and all the sorts. I mean, we definitely have plenty of interactions. I definitely think that people that have their own children definitely have, a very, I mean, obviously, a lot more personal experience, and then definitely, a lot more probably information and, choices that have actually gone through rather than a simulation. But I feel like, our opinions aren't, completely disqualified just because we don't have kids. So I appreciate all of the opinions that we've shared, regardless of whether we have kids or not. So I have one more comment here from Natalie. It just kind of goes on. It's the third paragraph. You can kind of see it. It says, it starts as, "So I was always." And I'll read it real fast here. "So I was always told the first 3 months after a baby is born, they really need you to be there and tend to them when they cry. I think it is important to get to know your child's cry and understanding what they are trying to communicate. On a side note, there is a huge debate among parents with sleep training and the cry it out method about how letting a child cry affects them." That's a really interesting study that you mentioned there toward the bottom. Yeah, I wonder what the effects are on letting them cry it out. I mean, I bet there's some advocates that would probably say letting them cry it out allows them to kind of like, for lack of better words, maybe suck it up and just, and like, get over it themselves and realize that, not everything will be attended to. Not that everything will be attended to, but not every single time they cry out will they get their need, get whatever they need, even though they don't have like, a hunger or a wet or, or any of those kind of things, a sickness or anything like that. So I think that's super interesting. Thanks, Natalie. If there's no more thoughts, we're kind of wrapped up on. We're kind of short on time here. I think we have about a minute or two left. But does anyone else have any other thoughts? Any other comments from any of the scenarios that you guys, or any of the options that you had from the My Virtual Child Simulator?
I did have one question for you guys. Most of you said in the beginning, I think, that you chose to talk to your child a lot and like kind of interact with them that way. And there were a few who said they played with their child more. So I was curious. I did the talking most. I chose those options to be like verbal and communicate with them. But towards one of the ending scenarios, when it said the pediatrician has checked them out and gave all the info about the child, it said that they were behind in fine and gross motor skills. And I wondered if that was because I did more talking and a little less playing. Like we weren't always into the toys. I did choose those options a few times. I was curious if anyone else was behind on motor skills.
That's interesting. For my child, I believe it said that he was fine in motor skills, but he could use a little bit more of a vocab than what he had. So that's what happened for mine with choosing to interact and dance play more, I guess. But they didn't say that he had deficiency in like language. He just could use more, I guess.
I'm trying to remember the pediatrician, the report that I got. I don't remember because I know I chose a lot of talking, but I know I kind of intermingled it with, every so often it would say, it would give me the option to kind of go and play and do those things or take my child out and interact with others or let them get picked up by others. I guess the variety of options I chose didn't really have anything for the pediatrician to report on. So I didn't get anything on motor skills, but I do know that I tended to lean more towards talking rather than playing. So I wonder if it's just, maybe random that it happened, or, maybe it's because you leaned even more toward talking than I did. So that's really interesting.
It sounds like one of the key things is to do a mixture, to have the balance of everything that you do with your kid.
I definitely agree with that. Thank you for all your points, guys. I think we're pretty much wrapped up here, and I do want to end on time. So after this, I'm gonna give a quick report on who was here. As far as I can tell, everyone participated, awesomely. No, I don't think we had any really quiet people. I know Natalie had her problem, but she definitely wrote about as much as we talked here, and we really appreciate that, Natalie. So I'll post the video up to the group thread, and you should see that all of you participated here, and then I'll kind of do a short summary of just our experiences. If you guys have any corrections to make or anything like that, or just type it up on there and we'll try and adjust or do what we can to help that. Or if the summary is not accurate, please definitely talk to me, and I can definitely maybe include something that I was forgetting to mention. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for setting up the meeting.
No worries. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the weekend, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.